So of course, a lot of people are like, oh, doom and gloom, they're coming to destroy the planet. It's like, apocalypse theories, and, none of that is true. And I think we can feel it. We can actually feel the codes coming from third eye. I like to call it third eye atlas because I feel like it's here to open our third eye. So I believe the next 6 weeks is going to be crucial in what happens on this planet. We will see more disclosure, more exposure, because darkness can no longer hide. There's too much light on the planet. Hi, I'm Anina Malherbe-Lan from Vivid Earth, and it's my pleasure to be here on Life After Life channel. Thank you for the invitation. So what does this transformation that we're currently experiencing on the planet really mean? Well, this really is the big shift of the ages, so to speak. We are entering a new 26,000 year cycle, or we've just ended a 26,000 year cycle and starting a new cycle. But I believe this is the time where we will exit all the cycles. In other words, we're not going to go back into the dark ages. That was the old earth. It was the 3D earth. We are now exiting this cycle, this continuous loop that humanity has been in for thousands of years. And this time we are breaking free. It is really an historical event, the first time in galactic history where a planet that was plunged into a lower dimension can organically pull itself up out into a higher dimension. So we're about to shift into the fifth dimension as a baseline for the planet. And this is a monumental event to be happening on Earth. And I'm so grateful to be alive at this time. And we are all here for a reason. All of us that are awake and aware and asking these questions are here for a reason, to help with this big shift. We all have a mission and purpose right now, which is so exciting. Yeah, so we are in this ascension process right now, in the middle of it. And a lot of people are feeling, you know, all sorts of things during this time. They may be feeling anxious, they may be feeling a bit confused, they may be having physical symptoms during this time. We have to understand that this is a massive shift, not just of dimensions, but our physical body has to transform as well during this time. So it's as if humanity is in the chrysalis of that change. When a caterpillar is busy transforming into a butterfly, it has to let go of everything that it knew and what made up its reality. It was to go into that mush phase in order to be reborn as a butterfly. And that is what humanity is going through at the moment. And a lot of people are left very confused, very anxious, they don't know what's happening to their body. They're having all sorts of symptoms, which we call ascension symptoms. We're getting a lot of help from galactic help at the moment. There's a lot of light streaming into the planet, onto the planet. We are also in a very light part of the photonic belt at the moment. So our planet is literally being bombarded with light, and light really carries information. So it's bringing back all this ancient information back to Earth and back to us, because most of us are ancient beings that have been around for many thousands of years and have forgotten all of the wisdom and all the experiences that we've been going through. And so slowly but surely, there's this remembrance that is filtering through to us for those that are really sensitive to the energy. And we've got to just have some patience and compassion for our bodies, because that is where the biggest transformation in a way is happening, because this is an embodied ascension. We're not escaping the body. We're not escaping Earth. We are doing this from within. So within these bodies, we are changing the molecular structure of this body to be able to hold more light, to exist in a higher dimension. And this is monumental. So, of course, there's going to be some discomfort, there's going to be some confusion. But for those of us that are doing the work, that are doing really understanding what's going on, we feel grateful to be alive at this time, to be going through these changes, even if it comes with some exhaustion, some flu-like symptoms, some stomach issues, nervous system issues. You can imagine what the body has to go through to be able to shift, a vibrational octave as much as we are currently. And so it's just a wonderful time to be on this planet. So a lot of what we're seeing at the moment is chaos on the planet. So people will say, well, I don't believe what you're saying because there's so much chaos on the planet. Look at the world stage, the politics, war, what people are doing to one another. There's so much polarity, there's so much division more than ever. So yes, when there is a kind of a bifurcation happening, you will notice a lot more polarity and division on the planet. But remember, it's always darkest before the dawn. We are entering the dawn of a new age, and it's always darkest before that breakthrough. And sometimes we've got to break down to break through. And all of the systems of control that are currently in this planet, that is no longer in resonance with the frequency, the rising frequency of the planet and its inhabitants, has to fall away. And of course, not all of those things will fall away with, okay, that's fine. We'll end this system now. No, there's a lot of, uh, opposition in letting go of the old systems, because the old systems of control makes a lot of sense to those that are not prepared to go to the higher dimensions. They can't let go of that because they don't understand that there's no need for power and greed. There's no need for control. Like, those systems are parasitic systems that will never really survive. They have to at some point either self-destruct or change. And we are going through that change right now. And we've got to understand that in order to create new systems that are kind, compassionate, in harmony with nature and the planet, the old systems has to be demolished and self-destruct in many cases. But we don't have to watch their destruction. We don't have to give it our energy and attention. If we can, and if that's part of our mission, we focus on the new, on building the new structures and systems that are going to take us into a new earth. And we don't literally have to watch the buildings burn in the background, and it's all about focusing on what comes next. The less energy we give these old systems, the quicker they disintegrate. And I think that's really the key for us right now. So 3R Atlas is a very interesting phenomenon that have entered our space in the last few months. And like clockwork, it's perfectly aligned with what's happening on the planet right now and the changes that we're going through, because 3R Atlas is not a comet. They call it an interstellar object or a visitor, but it's got none of the characteristics of a normal comet. It's also much bigger, much older, much more ancient, and come from another galaxy, to be quite honest. So I believe it's something that is bringing codes and remembrance back to us, because part of this process is to remember who we are as multidimensional beings, all the lifetimes we've led on many different planets and experiences, to start getting those remembrance and memories back, and the wisdom that goes with it, because that is what's going to uplift this planet. So 3R Atlas is literally emitting codes to the planet right now, which it often emits through the sun, because the sun is a portal. And with the increased solar activity that we currently experience, we are on solar maximum as well of the solar cycle 25, which means the solar flares and the geomagnetic activity around the planet is at an all-time high. And just in recent days, we've seen so much activity. We just had a X5.1 flare, which is massive. And before that, 2 other X flares, 2 M flares. We've got a current coronal mass ejection. The whole is bigger than Earth, much bigger than Earth. So of course, a lot of people are like, oh, doom and gloom, they're coming to destroy the planet. It's like, apocalypse theories, and, none of that is true. And I think we can feel it. We can actually feel the codes coming from third eye. I like to call it third eye Atlas, because I feel like it's here to open our third eye, it's curious how that name came about as well, if you think about it, because Atlas is actually a being as well. And the last time he was present on this planet was during the time of Atlantis. And that is when that was the last time the planet really kind of almost destroyed itself. And there was a good big cataclysm that happened. And it's like we have the opportunity now to do things differently. We're at that same point where that ascension window is open, where we have the choice to either technologically advance without the spiritual advancement to anchor it, or we can go the organic way and really go through this ascension organically. Doesn't mean we have to let go of all technology, but we have to be spiritually mature enough to handle the technology and to make sure that consciousness is what drives it, not just a pure need for power and technology and the advancement of that, because that in itself can disconnect one from one's soul. And that is where the destruction of Atlantis came in. So this is really a chance for kind of a do-over on Earth. And I believe that, Atlas is connected, a 3-hour Atlas is connected to all of that. We just had the perihelion on the 29th of October when Atlas was closest to the sun. And literally just after that, a lot of the massive solar activity kicked off, and we've had just a G4 magnetic storm in the last day or so. So a lot is happening, and I don't think it's easing up anytime soon. It's literally plummeting the planet with light, with information, with codes. It's raising the frequency of the planet in a major way. It is helping humanity open up its conscious and raising its consciousness for those that are awake and aware, especially, but also for those that are not. They're starting to look at life a little differently. They don't quite know why, and they don't quite know what is happening, but they feel something is different. And this is how we make this major shift. It's helping us make this massive shift on the planet during this time. And Atlas will be closest to the Earth on the 19th of December. And 2 days after, we have the solstice, which is a very big sort of energetic gateway as well for us. So I believe the next 6 weeks is going to be crucial in what happens on this planet. We will see more disclosure, more exposure, because darkness can no longer hide. There's too much light on the planet. So truth is exposing everything. And at the same time, humanity's consciousness is evolving in a major way. So it's a very exciting time to be alive, and a very pivotal time to be in a state of surrender, really, to receive all of this incredible light, information, and connection, because we all have that connection. We just have to be still enough to be able to receive it, to be open to it. So will there be people that bring through new energy into the current systems in the US and around the world? Absolutely. And you can already see, and that's why a lot of the star seeds and the volunteers have come through with that new energy. Perhaps they got activated at some point. Maybe it was during the pandemic 5 years ago. But a lot of these people came through with new energy. It's kind of we are these rebel souls that went, okay, no, this doesn't make sense. And no, we're not going to just obey. We are going to ask the difficult questions. We're going to ask the critical questions that is needed for humanity to break through out of the box. And when you look at it even further, the new children that's being born right now are just very, very different. A lot of them are not born with karma. There's no veil for them. They remember who they are. So a lot of these souls are also meant to bring in dramatic change on earth. And they will look at life and systems and everything around them very differently and make the major shifts that is needed on this planet. So as much as we are going through quite a quantum leap right now, a lot of the other things will take more time to change. And it's these young people that have come through, devoid of illusion and karma, that will be able to make the massive changes needed on this planet for us to create new Earth systems that are kinder, more compassionate, more peaceful, more focused on unity consciousness and in unconditional love. And that is what we need, because there's no lack on this planet. We've just been conditioned that there is a lack. There's a lack of money. There's a lack of water. There's a lack of oil. There's a lack of oxygen for that matter. We have to watch our own carbon footprint, and none of these things are true. There is an abundance on this planet that we can tap into. There's absolutely no lack. I mean, we're the only species that feel like we can't exist on this planet without buying the land, buying the food, buying the rocks, buying the plants. It's like, who owns those things that they can be sold to us? Because where did the government how did the government decide it's theirs, and where did they buy it from? So, so we will move back to a time on Earth where we have free access to everything that the planet has to offer, all the abundance, and we won't need to buy things. But those changes will happen over time. At the moment, we're still going to need money and these things, although the nature of money is going to change very soon. There's in time, maybe in a decade or two, we won't need money at all. And so I think that is what we're working towards. And a lot of these children just think very differently. They're not programmed like many of us that had to really work at letting go of the programs. And they will be able to make these huge quantum leaps on the planet that is necessary. So basically, how this is all affecting us, it's directly affecting our DNA. It's awakening dormant DNA within us, which is starting to switch on our intuitive abilities, abilities that have long been buried. Because remember, they talk about 96, 97% junk DNA. Well, that's not junk DNA. There's something there that we simply do not have access to at this time, but that can be unlocked. And we currently only using 2 strands of our DNA. For some of it's already maybe 3 or 4, but we are ready to switch on all 12 strands of DNA within the human form. And that itself is monumental. And all of these solar flares, which is really just, light codes coming through the sun being emitted to us. So even things like sun gazing, just being in the sun, is crucial right now to be able to activate your DNA. It happens slowly and incrementally, like every day. So that's why I always say it's important just to do a little bit of sun gazing, if you can, every single day, just to soak up the codes, because they work in little incremental ways. It doesn't come as a big, And also, I think where we were destined to have a big solar flash to kind of change everything on this planet, we would have seen a lot of death and destruction if that was the case. And I think a different route was decided, where we were rather going to experience a lot of mini flashes that was going to be giving our bodies a chance to catch up, to be able to absorb the light a little bit better, because it can be quite dramatic for the body, as we can feel every day when the flares are coming down. We can feel it in our bodies. Like sometimes we just have aches and pains. Sometimes, there's like a physical purge. You have a flu-like symptoms, or you have a stomach issue, or you have ringing in the ears, or you have a splitting migraine. So these are all like little doses of solar light coming through rather than the big flash. But I do believe there's going to be a big push, like like just pushing us through the birth canal, so to speak, when that new human is born. That will be a bigger flash than what we've seen to date. So I don't know. I'm really feeling like it could be before the end of the year. It could be connected to when Atlas is close to Earth, the solstice, but who knows? That is just kind of my gut feel. I feel like something is going to happen before the end of the year that's going to quantum leap us forward. We're also in a number 9 year, which means endings and conclusions, end of a cycle. So we're about to enter a new cycle in 2026. So we're going to see a lot of endings and conclusions at the end of 2025. And I think we are ready for the cycle to end. Yeah, so the galactic remembrance, which I speak about, and being a galactic bridge, is really something that I just recently fully stepped into. You know, we kind of get inklings of these things and we're like, no, I can't go there, I can't talk about it. But, you know, at some point we've got to embrace it, embrace who we are. And, you know, I've been studying galactic astrology well, I've been interested in kind of as a hobby studying it for the last few years, and really gotten deeper into it over the last 8 months, which is and it's a fascinating subject because it can really give you a sense of your um, multidimensional being from a galactic sense. What are the planets that you've spent time on in other lives? Because we're all ancient, we've been around for millions of years. Our soul doesn't die, so it has had all these galactic experiences that we simply most of the time not even aware of until one day something calls us to be awakened to that reality. Um, and so I've stepped into that sort of world a little bit more and discovered that I am meant to be a galactic bridge. In other words, bridging galactic wisdom onto the planet, um, and channeling that information through. And there are deep space objects that are very interesting as well that I've discovered that I'm aligned with, meaning the galactic center and the Shapley attractor. So you have normally the galactic center, which is a huge deep space, like a black hole kind of vortex. Then you get the super galactic center, which is further away and even bigger. Then you get the great attractor, which is even bigger and further away. And then you get the Shapley attractor, which is really from another galaxy. It's like a vortex, or like a black hole that have like 6,000 galaxies that it's like um, sucked into itself. And I've got an alignment with the Shapley attractor as well, conjunct to my sun. So realizing that, you can sidestep all of those things as much as you like, but at some point you're going to have to face the blueprint that you chose as a soul, the experiences you've had as a multidimensional galactic being, and what you're here to do in terms of anchoring that information and that wisdom and that knowledge and onto the planet. So it's really something that I started stepping into much more deeply over the last few months, and it's been super activating for me, and just yeah, wonderful to be able to get some of that remembrance, not to get distracted, because we're still in this human experience and in this human avatar for a reason, because we're doing an embodied ascension through the human form. But at the same time, we can tap into all of that multidimensional wisdom and knowledge and abilities and skills and gifts if we choose to. And so that's what I try and encourage in others, those that are ready and open to that. The veil will start lifting for humanity soon, where we will actually remember all of our lifetimes. We will remember our cosmic origin. We've been conditioned to think small and to act small, many of us. And the point is, we're not small at all. We are infinite beings. We are beyond powerful, beyond gifted. And it's about being just willing and ready without any ego, but just an openness to step into that. And I do believe with all that solar activity that we're experiencing, and perhaps with a sort of bigger flash, that veil is going to be lifting. We're going to remember who we are, who we were, why we're here, why we chose this blueprint, and remembering all of our lives everywhere in the universe. And really then, but we must be ready, spiritually mature for that, and ready to live in unity consciousness, because otherwise it can be a dangerous ability to have, shall I say. You have to be spiritually mature for that. But it's such an exciting time. The veil is going to be lifting for us. And I think we're all more than ready for that. Yeah, so sacred sites and ley lines is a very important part of this process, and it goes two ways. Sometimes you'll be called to a sacred site or to a certain energetic portal because you may be the person to activate it. You may be the person with the keys, with a code to activate that ley line, because a lot of them have laid dormant for many, many thousands of years. And, even there could be a portal or a stargate that has been hidden or blocked for many thousands of years. So often, some of us will have codes and keys to unblock those. At the same time, we can also be activated by these energetic portals. And they are often gateways to higher dimensions. So when you're in these sacred sites, whether it is uh, a a stargate, a portal, a vortex, a ley line, just an energetically powerful place. Um, just by being there, you could activate higher dimensions, remembrance. So they're definitely very important for us in fully actualizing who we are, our multidimensional self. And so I would encourage people, if they feel drawn to visit certain sacred sites, to listen to that call of their soul and to go there with pure intentions of receiving the codes that they meant to receive, but also emitting the codes they meant to within that place, and to honor and respect that sacred site with a pure intention, and always ask, permission from the land to share and to receive. And it can be incredibly powerful for sure. So I think a lot of us are here as New Earth guides, New Earth stewards of the New Earth, leaders of the New Earth. You know, not that I like to quote scripture, but it talks about the meek inheriting the earth. And I truly believe those quiet leaders who have been doing the work diligently with a pure heart and pure intentions, those are going to be the leaders and the stewards of the new earth. And that is why we are being called to do a lot of this work right now, why we're being called to visit these sacred sites right now, um, because we're going to be the stewards of this new earth. So we have to make sure that we are clear vessels, that we have worked through our shadows, that we have prepared ourselves for the task at hand. And there's a reason you have awakened. I mean, I think everyone here can feel that they may be the only person in their family or even their neighborhood or even their town that are awake and aware. They can't speak to anyone. But that's exactly how it was meant to be. We were placed around the earth in different locations in order to anchor the light. And we woke up for a reason so that we can start asking these profound questions and start doing the spiritual work and the shadow work needed for us to eventually be the new earth leaders, because we decided and we volunteered for that, to come down to earth at this time, to do the work, to be one of those star seeds that are going to be an undercover agent, so to speak, at some point in time will be activated and start preparing to lead the rest of the planet into this new earth reality. What spiritual lesson does fear teach us during this time, right now, individually and collectively? Well, I think this planet has been plunged in fear for many thousands of years. There's a sort of a trauma response that we instinctively have. You could call it PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. The planet has been through so much trauma that fear has become a sort of common thing. We don't even sometimes know why we fear, but we just fear. And fear has got to do also with our safety and very much with the root chakra. So when we don't feel safe, we're in flight or fight mode, which means we can't spiritually evolve. And this is exactly what some of the parasitic beings wanted us to be, um, to stay in fear. Because when you're in fear, you cannot even begin to connect to higher consciousness. You have to take care of your safety, whether that's having enough food to eat, being able to have a safe home or housing, being able to look after your kids. So we've been literally programmed with fear for so long. And this is the moment that we're breaking free of that. And we're realizing that really there is nothing to fear. We are eternal beings, first of all. So we really have nothing to fear. These are all just experiences we're having. But also that we are the ones that are going to break that cycle, the cycle of fear. We are the ones that have come for our ancestors and everyone that went before us to say no more. We break the cycle of fear. Fear is actually not real, and there's nothing to fear. And we're going to be in such a restful, peaceful state that we can actually successfully activate the upper chakras and connect with higher consciousness, because you can only do that when your nervous system is completely at peace. So that is really the goal. That is our lesson here on earth, to break through the fear programming and realize that it is just a program. And yet your brain is a biological machine that you can reprogram if you so wish. So it's all this old programs and patterns and stuff that we have to break through. And the solar flares and all of the solar activities helping us with that. It's often pushing those things to the surface. That's why a lot of people have been going through a lot of emotional turmoil, because all of these shadows, all of these old programs have to come to the fore, have to be recognized and then released. We're not meant to suppress them. We're meant to look them square in the eyes and release them. And that will open us up to the next octave of humanity and its connection to higher consciousness and dimensions. So I just want to tell people that, you know, we are doing amazingly well. We are going through a monumental time on Earth right now. Give yourself a little bit of a break. Yeah, people can find me at on YouTube, Vivid Earth _ 3.0. We'll leave the link below maybe, and then also my website, vividearth.org. That's Vivid Earth, one word. And I just like to share with people all of this information and guide them along their journey. And it's an honor and a privilege to be here at this time and to share with everyone. And I just want to send everyone my love and gratitude.